The message from the Void Captain Marcus Vale stood on the bridge of the UES Thunderstrike, watching the stars through the massive viewport. The Deep Space Monitoring Station had picked up something unusual 3 days ago, and now every ship in the Terran Defense Fleet was on high alert. The signal came from beyond known space, carrying patterns that could only mean one thing: first contact. Communications Officer Jenny Ross turned from her station, her face pale with concern. "Captain, we've finished decoding the alien transmission. You need to see this immediately." She transferred the data to the main screen, where strange symbols transformed into readable text through the translation matrix. The message was clear and direct. The Zephyrian Collective demanded Earth's immediate surrender. They claimed dominion over this sector of the galaxy and viewed humanity as trespassers on their territory. The aliens gave Earth exactly 72 hours to abandon all colonies and submit to their authority or face complete annihilation. "They're calling us primitive insects," Lieutenant Commander Jake Morrison read from his tactical station. "Says our technology is pathetic compared to theirs. They expect total compliance within 3 standard days." Captain Vale felt his jaw tighten. Humanity had worked for centuries to build their civilization among the stars. Colonies on Mars, Europa, and dozens of other worlds represented the hopes and dreams of billions of people. These aliens expected them to simply give it all up, based on nothing but threats and arrogance. Fleet Admiral Patricia Kane's voice crackled through the communication system from Earth Command. "All ships, this is Admiral Kane. We've received similar demands at every human outpost. The aliens seem to think we'll roll over and play dead just because they have bigger ships." The Admiral's reputation preceded her. She had commanded the defense of the Outer Rim during the colony wars, never backing down from a fight when human lives were at stake. Her voice carried the same steel that had made her legendary among the fleet. "Captain Vale, you're to proceed to Rally Point Omega with the 4th Battle Group. We're not surrendering anything to these invaders. If they want our worlds, they'll have to fight for them." Vale turned to his crew, seeing determination reflected in every face. These weren't soldiers who had signed up for easy duty. They were defenders of humanity, chosen for their courage and skill. Navigation Officer Tom Wright was already plotting their course to the rally point, while Chief Engineer Beth Coleman ran diagnostics on their weapon systems. "All hands, this is the captain," Vale announced over the ship's intercom. "We've received demands from an alien force that thinks humanity will surrender without a fight. They're about to learn why that's the biggest mistake they could make. Battle stations." The Thunderstrike's engines roared to life, pushing the massive warship toward its destination. Behind them, dozens of other human vessels followed, each one carrying crews ready to defend their home among the stars. The Fleet Assemble's Rally Point Omega buzzed with activity as the largest human fleet in history gathered in the shadow of a dead moon. Ships from every corner of human space converged on the coordinates, their crews preparing for a battle that would decide the fate of their species. Captain Diana Cross watched from the bridge of her heavy cruiser, the UES Vengeance, as more vessels dropped out of hyperspace. Battleships, destroyers, carriers, and support craft filled the void, their running lights creating a constellation of human defiance against the darkness. "Impressive sight, isn't it?" commented her executive officer, Commander Neil Harper. He was studying the tactical displays that showed their growing numbers. 200 ships and counting. The aliens picked the wrong species to threaten. Admiral Kane's flagship, the massive dreadnought UES Indomitable, held position at the center of the formation. Its weapons could crack planets, and its armor had never been breached in combat. But even more important than its firepower was what it represented: humanity's refusal to bow to any threat. "All ship commanders, report to the Indomitable for..." "Briefing!" came the order across all channels. Captain Cross transferred command to Harper and took a shuttle across to the flagship, joining dozens of other captains in the Admiral's war room. The briefing chamber fell silent as Admiral Kane entered. She looked exactly like the stories described, tall, stern, with grey hair and eyes that had seen too many battles. When she spoke, every person in the room listened with complete attention. Intelligence indicates the Zephyrian fleet numbers. Approximately 300 vessels, she began, activating a holographic display. They're positioned just outside the Centauri system, probably expecting us to send diplomats begging for mercy. Murmurs of anger rippled through the assembled officers. Captain Luis Rodriguez of the fast attack ship UES Lightning spoke up. "Admiral, our scouts report their ships are significantly larger than ours. Are we sure we can match their firepower?" Kane's expression hardened. "Captain Rodriguez, let me tell you something about humanity that these aliens clearly don't understand. We don't win fights because we have bigger guns. We win because we're too stubborn to lose and too clever to fight fair." She gestured to the tactical display, showing the enemy formation. The Zephyrians have arranged themselves in a traditional battle line, probably thinking this will be a simple demonstration of superior force. They're about to learn that humans don't fight traditional battles. The plan Admiral Kane outlined was audacious and dangerous. Instead of meeting the enemy head-on, the human fleet would split into multiple strike groups. Some would engage the aliens directly, while others would use stealth technology to attack from unexpected angles. It was a strategy that relied on speed, cunning, and the element of surprise. "Remember," Kane concluded, "we're not just fighting for territory or resources. We're fighting for the right to exist as a free species. Every human colony, every family, every child depends on what we do in the next few hours." Captain Cross returned to her ship with renewed purpose. The Vengeance had been her home for 8 years, and her crew was like family. They had trained together, fought together, and now they would face humanity's greatest challenge together. First blood, the human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Centauri system, immediately dispersing into their assigned formations. Captain Marcus Vale watched his tactical screen as the enemy fleet came into view. And he had to admit, the sight was intimidating. The Zephyrian ships were massive, sleek vessels that looked like they could swallow human destroyers whole. "Enemy formation holding steady," reported Lieutenant Commander Morrison from his station. "They're maintaining a classic battle line formation, just like Admiral Kane predicted. Looks like they're waiting for us to surrender." Captain Cross's voice came over the communication channel from her position with Strike Group Beta. "All units. Enemy ships are powering up what appear to be energy weapons. Massive power signatures detected across their entire line." Vale studied the alien fleet through his ship's enhanced sensors. The Zephyrian vessels were impressive, but they were also predictable. They had arranged themselves exactly as any traditional military force would, probably following tactics that had worked for centuries across the galaxy. "This is Admiral Kane," came the familiar voice across all channels. "Execute Plan Thunderbolt. Show these invaders what happens when they threaten humanity." The human fleet exploded into motion. Strike Group Alpha, led by Kane's flagship, charged directly at the center of the enemy line, weapons blazing. The Zephyrians responded exactly as expected, concentrating their fire on what they assumed was humanity's main attack. Meanwhile, strike groups Beta and Gamma used their smaller, more maneuverable ships to flank the enemy formation. Captain Rodriguez's fast attack squadron swept around the alien fleet's left wing, while Captain Cross led her heavy cruisers in a devastating assault on their right flank. "Direct hit on enemy flagship," shouted Morrison, as the Thunderstrike's main guns found their target. The alien vessel's shields flared but held firm, and return fire lit up space around the human ships. But the real surprise came from Strike Group Delta. Commander Sarah Walsh had taken a squadron of stealth-equipped ships on a wide loop around the battlefield, While the Zephyrians focused on the obvious threats, her ships appeared directly behind their formation, like ghosts materializing from the void. "Strike Group Delta engaging enemy rear," Walsh reported as her ships opened fire on the unprotected engines of the alien vessels. Several Zephyrian ships lost power immediately, drifting helplessly as their propulsion systems failed. The alien formation began to collapse as they tried to respond to attacks from 4 different directions. Their rigid battle line, designed to maximize firepower in a single direction, became a liability when faced with humanity's unconventional tactics. Captain Vale watched with grim satisfaction as enemy ships struggled to reposition themselves. "Target their command ship," he ordered. "If we can disrupt their coordination, this battle is ours." The Thunderstrike's weapons blazed across space, joined by dozens of other human ships focusing their fire on the Zephyrian flagship. Under the concentrated assault, the alien vessel's shields finally collapsed, and devastating explosions rippled across its hull. Within minutes, the tide of battle had turned completely. The alien fleet, caught off guard by humanity's innovative tactics, found themselves outmaneuvered and outfought despite their technological advantages. The price of victory. The aftermath of the battle left space littered with debris from both fleets. The Zephyrian formation had been shattered, with over half their ships destroyed or disabled, but victory had come at a cost for humanity as well. Captain Vale surveyed the damage reports coming in from across the fleet, feeling the weight of command pressing down on his shoulders. "Casualty reports, Morrison," he ordered quietly, dreading the numbers he was about to hear. 37 ships lost, sir. Another 68 reporting significant damage. Estimated crew losses." Morrison's voice faltered for a moment. "Estimated. Losses at 12,000 personnel." The bridge fell silent. 12,000 human lives, each representing families, dreams, and futures that would never be realized. Vale had known the cost would be high, but the reality of it still hit him like a physical blow. Admiral Kane's voice cut through the somber mood. "All ships, this is Admiral Kane. I know we're all mourning our fallen comrades, but the battle isn't over. We have enemy survivors to deal with, and more importantly, we need to understand what we're really facing." Captain Cross's ship, the Vengeance, had taken heavy damage during the flanking maneuver, but remained operational. Her voice came over the communication channel, strained but determined. "Admiral, we're detecting escape pods from the enemy flagship. Recommend we take prisoners for interrogation." "Agreed, Captain Cross, but approach with caution. We don't know if this is some kind of trap or if these aliens fight to the death rather than surrender." The human fleet moved carefully among the wreckage, rescue teams working alongside combat units to secure the battlefield. It was Commander Walsh, whose stealth squadron had delivered the decisive blow, who made the first contact with actual Zephyrian survivors. "Admiral, this is Commander Walsh. You need to see this. The aliens we've captured, they're not what we expected." The first Zephyrian prisoner was brought aboard the Indomitable under heavy guard. Admiral Kane studied the creature through reinforced transparent barriers, trying to reconcile what she saw with the arrogant demands they had received. The alien was smaller than expected, with greyish skin and large, intelligent eyes that seemed to hold more fear than aggression. When it spoke through the translation device, its voice was high-pitched and nervous, nothing like the commanding tone of their original demands. "Please," the creature said, its words coming through the translator in broken English. "We were only following orders. The High Command said humans were dangerous, that you would destroy us if we didn't strike first." Admiral Kane exchanged glances. With her intelligence officers, this didn't match their intelligence about the Zephyrian collective at all. She leaned forward, studying the frightened alien carefully. "Who gave these orders? Who is your High Command?" The prisoner's eyes widened, with what appeared to be genuine terror. "The overlords, they control everything. They told us humans were expanding too fast, taking worlds that belonged to others. They said you would never stop until you controlled the entire galaxy. Captain Vale, monitoring the interrogation from his ship, felt a chill run down his spine. If this alien was telling the truth, then humanity had just won a battle against what might be puppet forces, while the real enemy remained hidden in the shadows. The implications were staggering. Somewhere out there was a power that had convinced an entire species to attack humanity based on lies and fear. The Zephyrians hadn't been arrogant conquerors after all. They had been tools, manipulated into starting a war that served someone else's purposes. The real enemy revealed. 3 days after the battle, the interrogation of Zephyrian prisoners had revealed a truth more disturbing than anyone had imagined. Admiral Kane stood in the briefing room of her flagship, surrounded by her senior officers, as they tried to process the intelligence they had gathered. "The overlords," she said, activating a holographic display that showed what little information they had managed to extract. "According to our prisoners, they're an ancient species that has been manipulating younger civilizations for millennia. They don't conquer directly. They make other species do their fighting for them." Captain Vale studied the fragmented data they had collected. The overlords appeared to be masters of psychological warfare, identifying promising species and then feeding them carefully crafted lies designed to make them aggressive toward their neighbors. The Zephyrians were just the latest in a long line of puppet armies. They told the Zephyrians that humans were a plague that would consume the galaxy, reported Intelligence Officer Kelly Foster, showed them fabricated evidence of human atrocities, manipulated communications to make our colonies look like military bases. The Zephyrians genuinely believed they were fighting for their survival. Commander Walsh, whose stealth tactics had proven so effective in the battle, looked up from her. "Datapad. Admiral, if this is true, how many other species have the overlords turned against us? How many potential allies are out there who think we're monsters because of lies they've been fed?" The question hung in the air like a sword over their heads. Humanity had just won their first interstellar war, but instead of celebrating, they were discovering that they faced an enemy far more dangerous than simple military conquest. They were fighting against an intelligence that operated through deception and manipulation. Admiral Kane walked to the viewport, staring out at the stars that had once seemed so welcoming. Somewhere out there, the overlords were probably already identifying their next puppet species, feeding them lies about human aggression and expansion. The cycle would continue unless someone stopped it. "Admiral," Captain Cross's voice came over the communication system. "We're receiving a transmission from the Zephyrian homeworld. It's their government. They want to arrange a ceasefire." Kane returned to the communication console, her mind racing. This could be another trap, but it could also be an opportunity. If they could convince the Zephyrians that they had been manipulated, humanity might gain its first alien allies instead of just enemies. "Put them through," she ordered. The screen filled with the image of what appeared to be the Zephyrian equivalent of a government official, its large eyes filled with uncertainty and what might have been hope. "Humans," the alien said through the translator, "we have learned disturbing things from our survivors. They say you showed mercy to prisoners, that you fought with honor even in victory. This is not what the overlords told us about your species." Admiral Kane chose her words carefully. "We fight when we must, but we prefer peace when it's possible. Your people were deceived, just as ours might be if we're not careful. The real enemy is the one that convinced you to attack us in the first place." The Zephyrian official was quiet for a long moment. When it spoke again, its voice carried a note of determination that reminded Kane of human resolve. "Then perhaps it is time for our species to stand together against those who would make us their pawns. The overlords have manipulated us for the last time." As the communication ended, Kane felt something she hadn't experienced since the crisis began. Hope. Humanity had won more than a battle. They had potentially gained an ally and taken the first step toward exposing the real threat facing all free species in the galaxy. The war was far from over, but now they knew who they were really fighting against. And when humans knew their true enemy, they had never failed to find a way to win.